Hey everyone, my name is Rasheed Ahmed and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'd like to give you a short summary about COVID-19 with the world. I know I'm late about this subject, but this is one of the most important topics that we should not miss. I'm not gonna talk about the things that all people know about COVID-19, but today, I'd like to give you a sequence of events that attracted attention all people across the globe. Ready to hear that with me? Let's get started. COVID-19 is an infectious virus which can travel very quickly and affect so many people. So COVID-19 is an abbreviation of the coronavirus disease and found in 2019. COVID-19 can spread through touching, sneezing, and so many more. Let me tell you about the mechanism of COVID-19. It begins to go through your nose, traveling through the nasal cavity, through your chest, and begin to destroy the respiratory system by blocking the patient airway so the patient can't breathe and die within an hour. There are some symptoms you do notice on the patient with COVID-19 like sneezing, fever, difficulty in breath, chest pain, and loss of taste and smell, and so many more. But be careful. Sometimes having those symptoms in your body doesn't mean that you have COVID-19. It could be a normal sneezing or a normal fever. Just be positive and delete all your doubts from your mind. Now let's talk about COVID-19 with so many big countries who suffered from this virus badly. Let's begin to talk about COVID-19 in China. COVID-19 was first noticed in Wuhan, a very big city in China. We don't know the exact reason for spreading of that virus, but was clear to know that China was the cause of that virus. So over about 220,000 people they get infected by COVID-19 in China, and over about 5,000 people they died because of this virus in China. That is by the WHO last assessment. So China was the first country who suffered from COVID-19, but also was the first country who had the abilities to limit this virus from spreading in its land. We all know that China is having the greatest population in the world by having over about 1,300,000,000 people living in its cities. Despite of this huge number of citizens living in its cities, China was the first country who worked with a good plan to limit this virus from spreading in its land. The first thing that China did during this pandemic was that to build a huge hospital in 10 days for all people who get infected by COVID-19. And that shows to the whole world about how strong is China to do a big work like this one in this limited time with no mistakes. Now let's talk about COVID-19 in the United States. Spreading of COVID-19 in the United States led all Americans to be in very tough times. So over about 82 million of American people they get infected by COVID-19, and over about 1,300,000 people they died because of coronavirus in America. That is by the WHO last assessment. When COVID-19 was active, Donald Trump was the president. Over about 2 million of jobs in the United States they get lost during this pandemic. So COVID-19 took a lot of lives in the United States, and not only this, but also destroyed the United States economy, mostly its coin and its oil, and also the oil's value started decreasing as well. And that shows to the whole world that the United States was not strong enough to handle this virus by its own. Now let's talk about COVID-19 in Italy. You know, Italy was not lucky in this matter. So over about 17 million of Italian people, they get infected by COVID-19. And over about 167,000 of Italian people, they died because of this virus. That is because the Italian people, they didn't take this very seriously, and more importantly, they didn't stay at home while the virus was active. And the huge reason for this huge number of deaths in Italy, that is because the fear that was controlling the Italians' emotions. What you don't know about Italy is that Italy is having the greatest healthcare system in the world, but unfortunately, that was not enough to handle this virus. Also very tough times for all Italians doctors who had to make very tough decisions in the hospitals. Like they had to remove the mask of oxygen from old people and had to give it to the young people to live. That is because the huge number of infected people in Italy. Also, a very tough time for all Italian doctors who had to focus only on people who get infected by COVID-19 and left, or maybe they took less care on people who are suffering from another diseases like cancers and heart failures. And that was a very big mistake they did. Now let's talk about COVID-19 in Yemen. Yemen was one of the most countries who got lucky from not having COVID-19 badly. So at first, COVID-19 didn't appear in Yemen. While all people across the globe are suffering from COVID-19, all Yemeni people were living free without having that virus. While all people across the globe locked themselves at their homes to protect themselves from COVID-19, all Yemeni people were living free without having any problem. But unfortunately, COVID-19 then started to appear in Yemen. So over about 12,000 people they get infected by COVID-19 in Yemen, and over about 2,200 of Yemeni people they died because of COVID-19. Most of these dead people were old people, because old people, they don't have this powerful immunity to overcome this virus. Yemen, unfortunately, is not having a good healthcare system. Yemen is suffering from a war about 8 years, and that helps the virus to spread as well. Now let me tell you about one of the most painful things that happened during this pandemic was that the medical staff, including specialized doctors, nurses, general physicians, and surgeons. Most of these people, they get infected by COVID-19 during saving lives. So part of them, they were lucky to be healed and treated from COVID-19. But unfortunately, some of them, they were unlucky to be healed from COVID, so they had to pass away, leaving their jobs, leaving their homes, leaving their families, leaving everything behind them. And that was one of the most saddest things that happened during this pandemic. Millions of people, they get infected by COVID-19 across the globe. Thousands and millions of people, they died because of coronavirus. Millions of jobs, they get lost during this pandemic. All countries shut their doors off. No coming, no leaving. All airports, they shut their doors off. All planes, they stayed in the airports for 3 months respectively. All hotels, they had to shut their doors off. All markets, they get closed. In 2019, the world became one nation. In 2019, the world worked as one hand to limit this virus from spreading, and worked as hard as they could to create a vaccine to treat people from this virus. Well, that was a short summary about COVID-19 with the world. I hope that you enjoyed watching and had the pleasure to be interested in today's subject. Thanks again, guys, for watching, and see you guys next time.